All right, good morning, friends. It's time for the hands-free drive to work because, as you know, you can keep your hands on the wheel and at the same time have a conversation about steering yourself through the weeds of work. I know you noticed it's a little dark this morning, but sometimes you have to get up before the sun does. So we're going to get started. I got a little light to help me, just so you know I'm still here. So let's have this conversation about how to steer ourselves through the weeds of work. We've said work has weeds. That's all there is to it. We wish every time we went out and worked that fruit came up, that there was production, there was productivity, but we also know that there's a lot of times that we have to filter through the weeds, and we've been talking about how to do that. And I hope this is helping you. We talked about a couple core traits of our system of self-management, which is called last to least. We talked about some of the core traits that last to least has, and we said that one of those was just learning how to discern the difference between watering fruit and growing fruit. We have to know the difference between the results that we're looking for and the actions that bring those results about. We have to be able to actually pinpoint the difference between the two. We talked about that. We also talked about fulfilling promises before we pursued dreams. We talked about fulfilling promises before we pursue dreams. And we talked about how that we can often look ahead so far that we forget to do the things that are right in front of us. But those who are managing themselves well and being productive and engaged will always fulfill the promises that they've already made before they pursue the next dream. And so that's another way to manage ourselves through the weeds of work. So today we're at the third core trait of last to least. And really, I've told you a few times, next video, we're going to talk about how to decide differently. We're still thinking differently right now. And we know we'll never act differently until we learn to decide differently. We'll never decide differently until we learn to think differently. So let's do one more in the think category. And this is the third core trait of last to least. And I hope this is helpful to you as it has been to me. And this is the core trait. We should find meaning in our work. There is a lot of talk about meaning and fulfillment and achievement and contentment around the concept of work. There is a lot of people right now talking about how these two things intersect. And so just to make sure that that you know exactly what I am saying, because a lot of these words you've heard before, and let's make sure that you're understanding what I mean. But when I use these words, I'm going to tell you two things that I'm not saying. So I'm not saying to find meaning while you work. I'm not saying to find meaning while you work, and I'm not saying to get meaning from your work. I'm saying to find meaning in your work. And I'll tell you the first, again, sometimes we understand what something is not. It's easier to understand what it actually is. And so this core trait is not getting meaning from work. And a lot of times right now when you hear work and meaning mentioned together, or work and fulfillment mentioned together, this is the concept that they're talking about, is that you get meaning from your work. That means when you finally settle on the career that you love. I actually heard someone in an interview not long ago, the young lady said, I think I've loved my jobs before, but she said I still just got burnt out with them at some point. And the person she was talking to, the kind of self-help guide, he said, maybe you haven't found the thing that you actually love yet. That's the problem, he was telling her. And a lot of times you'll hear this is because we think we should get meaning from our work. And when we finally find that thing that we're made to do, when we find the right job, the right career path, whatever it is, and we can call it a lot of different things. If we find our calling or we find the vocation for us, then it's like, okay, now we'll know that we're valuable. We'll get meaning from our work. That's not what I'm talking about. Work does not have the power to give you meaning. So we're not talking about getting meaning from our work. We're also not talking about finding meaning while we work. And this is it would be a popular concept. If you heard find meaning in your work, you may go to this line of thinking, which is what I'm calling finding meaning while you work. And I'll draw a little on an author, Barry Schwartz, wrote a book called Why We Work. And I actually listened to an interview with Barry Schwartz not long ago, and he was explaining a similar concept to this in his book, Why We Work. And he said that there was a study on janitorial workers in a hospital. And he said some of those workers that they found that they just came and picked up a paycheck and then they went home. But some workers, on the other hand, some janitors, on the other hand, and this is what he said, they really connected with the mission of the hospital. And I was on board. Now, I was leaning forward when I heard this. And he said these janitors were much more productive, much more engaged in their work. And so, again, I'm leaning in because I'm very interested in hearing this. And then he said that here's how they knew that these janitors had found meaning in their work, that they had connected with the mission of the hospital. He said that those janitors reported that as they would go into a patient's, room to clean, that often they might notice that some of the nurses needed help with moving the patient. And so they would put down their brooms or put down their, spray to wipe down the room, and they would help move the patient. They said sometimes as they were going into a waiting area, they might notice that some of the family was there grieving. And so they would put down their broom or put down their materials they use to be a janitor, and they would go over and they would embrace that family and maybe sit with them. All amazingly good things. But Barry Schwartz was drawing attention to the fact that they did things that were, quote, not connected to their job description. And that is where I was sad. I was sad that he was celebrating that the janitors did things that were not connected with their job description, but that were connected with the mission of the hospital. And the reason I was sad, I began to look at, and think through all the things that a janitor brings to a hospital that is absolutely connected to their job description. See, he wasn't bringing out the fact that they found meaning in their work. He was bringing out the fact that they found meaning while they work. And I'm saying it was such a good thing that they were doing. But what I hope you can see, is that they could have, and you and I can, find meaning in the work, not just while we work. See, if I were to sit down with that janitorial staff, I would say, if you find that you are cleaning a hallway because there's been something spilled on that hallway, and maybe the thing spilled is only a soda, but when a customer or a patient walks through that area and they feel sticky beneath their feet, will it change the experience that they had as they came into the hospital? Will it give them a view of the hospital that's positive or negative? They don't know what's under their feet. And so the janitor making sure that floor is clean is absolutely connecting with the mission of the hospital. If a janitor makes sure that the waiting area is free from any overrun trash cans with food that some other family had eaten earlier, maybe while that family grieves, if the smell of onions waft through the air, does that actually distract them from being able to embrace one another? Absolutely it would. And so the janitor doing something absolutely connected to their job description could provide a space for that family to grieve. Not only that, if the janitor doesn't clean the place, at some point it becomes unfit for its purpose. If it's not clean, then it's no longer fit to be a hospital. That's what I wanted to see. I wanted to be able to let them know, don't find meaning just while you work. That's incredible. But take it up to the next level and find meaning in the work that you're actually doing. And I can tell you, for me, it does take some thought life. Hey, if you're a physician, a lot of times we celebrate the job that a physician does. We say, wow, they're really helping the community. And sometimes if you're a salesperson, we don't absolutely celebrate the job that you do for the community. But each member of a workforce has an absolute service that they provide for the community. If you cannot find that in your current role, you should absolutely look for a different role. But I'll tell you, as I've thought through this time and time again, I've thought through it with a lot of different people. And if you think about it and do the work, And really, this is where you have to go. You have to look for the need that your work actually meets. Look for the need that your specific work actually meets. When I first started thinking about this with the insurance business, I would think, okay, we actually make sure that people's risk are taken care of. We make sure that if somebody in the community loses a home, that now that they can actually have that home built back. And I started to think about what insurance does. But then I had to think about more specifically what's my role within the insurance company. And really, I'm there to give advice. My role in the insurance company is to help people and encourage them to make wise decisions with their money. I personally don't have any say-so or any direct control over a house being rebuilt or us awarding a claims check. But what I do is get people to think about their risk, and then I ask them to make wise decisions with their money. Do you see? You think about your specific role within the work that you do and ask, what need am I actually meeting? And when you do that, you can really find meaning in the work that you do every day, not just while you work. You can not just try to get meaning from your work and not just try to find meaning while you work, but you can start to find meaning in the work itself that you do. And when you do, the productivity and engagement that you experience is absolutely undeniably different. It's undeniably greater because now you see the actual purpose that your work actually carries. It's so much greater than any profit or incentive that comes back to me. A met need comes first in all the work that I do. And that's why if I begin to lead myself according to the principles of last to least, I can really, really change the way that I work. I hope you're starting to see that now. And I cannot wait until the next video because I've been trying to give you teasers. But at the same time, I really can't wait to tell you, how do we decide differently? Because you know this. There's so many times when you've known all the things that you should do, but still you haven't done it. And so next video is going to be about how to decide differently. Think about this today. Just think about one way that your specific role in your career right now actually provides a specific service for your neighbor individually, your client or customer, or the neighborhood around you. And when you think about that, find that is the meaning in your work. And like I've been saying this, if you do think of something really cool, drop it down in the comments and we can all learn from each other. Thank you so much for listening this morning.